Welcome to Education 207, Designing Effective Lessons for All Learners, Module 2, Lesson Purpose. In this session, we'll explore what makes a lesson purposeful and why that matters so much for both teaching and learning. The goal is to move beyond simply filling time and start thinking about instruction as intentional, focused, and learner driven. So let's dive into exploring lesson purpose in this module. Purposeful lesson design begins with clarity. Before you plan an activity or print a worksheet, you need to know what's the goal, why does it matter, and how will I know if my students have met the goal? When you can answer those questions, your instruction becomes more focused and impactful. So think about this. Purposeful lesson design equals teaching with intention. It answers, what should students learn? Why is it important? And how will we know that they've learned it? Lessons without a clear purpose often jump from one task to another without clear direction. Students can feel lost or disengaged, and many times, even very conscientious learners feel overwhelmed or frustrated. Purposeful planning makes sure everything you do in the classroom is meaningful, it's connective, and it's supportive of student success. So think about these qualities. Purpose actually helps our lessons become coherent. This means that the sequencing of our lessons is unified. Students understand the coherence of how the skills build from one to the next. That purposeful lessons are goal driven. So this is going to be tied to our student objectives and outcomes, and it's going to be tied to those standards. And it's also purposeful lessons are clear and they are effective. Okay, so we talked in one of the earlier lessons, and we will talk again about ensuring that the objectives are made clear to the students. This is very important in communicating the purpose. If a lesson it lacks purpose, they can become somewhat unfocused. The lessons themselves, these often lead to questions sometimes of like, why are we doing this? What's the point? They can be inconsistent, meaning that sometimes lessons, maybe the pacing is so fast because we're trying to cram a bunch in, and then the next lesson may be really lackadaisical and it's inconsistent. The pacing is inconsistent. And then the learning priorities are inconsistent. This, of course, can lead to confusion for our students. So purpose is very important. When students understand the why behind what they're learning, they become more invested in the learning. Purposeful planning supports mastery of standards, clarity of expectations, student motivation, and transferable learning. Purposeful lessons are more likely to lead to mastery, not just memorization. This also sets students up for success beyond the classroom by helping them see real-world connections. So purpose is directly connected to student achievement. Now let's talk about the impact that it can have on our teaching practice. For teachers, purposeful planning improves everything from classroom management to assessment. You become more organized, you become more confident in your instruction, and you become more responsive to student needs because you have a clear goal guiding your instructional decisions. So purposeful lesson planning helps teachers plan intentionally, focus on the outcomes and ensure that we edit out anything that is superfluous or even distracting. We are able to provide more meaningful feedback because we know exactly where we're leading our students. And then it helps us to reflect and adjust instruction as needed because we're very intent on the purpose of the lesson and how it is connected to the learning outcomes. Planning with purpose also streamlines your classroom. When lessons are organized around a clear goal, transitions make sense, directions are easier to follow, and students stay more engaged. You spend less time correcting behavior and more time actually teaching. So, purpose supports classroom clarity. Purpose leads to clear routines, smooth transitions, on-task behavior, and less time wasted. So for our purposes, purposeful lesson planning is directly tied to the Praxis PLT content areas. For example, how you plan instruction, how you assess learning, and how you reflect and grow as a teacher is connected to purposeful lesson planning. This module builds the foundation for success for your praxis and, of course, for your future classroom. So when it is time to take your praxis PLT, and your instructors and your advisors will let you know when it's time, remember that the foundational parts of this lesson are connected to instructional process, assessment, and professional development, which are part of the Praxis PLT. The reason I'm letting you know that now is because I want you to see purpose in what you're going to be learning in this course, throughout the course. This module wraps up with a short quiz that reinforces your understanding of lesson purpose. And you will need at least a, actually, it's not a 79. You're going to need a passing score. So you were given up to 2 attempts, and you were given, and you must have a passing score on up to 2 attempts. Review the lesson purpose materials, complete the lesson purpose quiz, and then go for it on that quiz. Have a wonderful week, and there will be more materials provided for you on Canvas. If you are in the online setting, and in the face-to-face setting, you will have additional activities that help you learn more about lesson purpose. Have a wonderful week.